Okay, now let's talk about the blood supply of retina. As you know that the development of eyeball, or rather the optic nerve and olfactory nerve, both of them first and second are arising from the forebrain, and rest of the cranial nerves, they arise from the brain stem. So both these nerves, olfactory and optic nerve, are considered to be the extensions of diencephalon, the forebrain, and that's why they're all they're covered by all the layers of the meninges, including the subarachnoid space. So here you seeing is the optic nerve, right? So this is the optic nerve, and it's being surrounded by all the layers, pia just surrounding to that. Then you have the arachnoid, subarachnoid space, and the dura. So as this optic nerve enters the optic canal, then enters the orbit, all these layers follow the meninges and they blend with the the capsule of the eyeball, that's called Tenon's capsule, the bulbar fascia of the eyeball, the Tenon's capsule. So that dura merges with that, and this optic nerve, is when it enters the optic canal, it is accompanied by ophthalmic artery. And this optic canal, is within the body, this sphenoid bone that forms the apex of the orbit. So up till then it's like continuing here in the optic outside the optic, within, sorry, optic nerve, because all the cerebral vessels, they are running in the subarachnoid space. So the optic of ophthalmic artery will enter the orbit through the subarachnoid space, and the length of the optic nerve is, let me draw it here if for your convenience. Let's say this is the orbit of the right side, and rather I should draw it a little above. This is the orbit, and they find is the eyeball, right? And this is the nerve, the optic nerve. After that it forms the optic chiasma inside. The length of the optic nerve is 40 millimeters. It's 40 millimeters, and let me tell you that this is the optic canal through which it enters the orbit. So you need to know about the length of the different parts. So the intraorbital portion of the optic nerve is around 25 millimeters, right? And this is the intracanalicular, optic canals के through pass हो रही, right? It's intracanalicular. It's around 5 to 9 millimeters, but you just remember as 5 millimeters, right? And the intracranial portion of the optic nerve is 10 millimeters. So that is the different parts of the optic nerve, and together you can see it forms 40 millimeters. That is the length of optic nerve. Okay, so the further one thing that you should have seen by now, that the optic nerve course within the orbit is not a straight course. It has a slight S-shaped curve. Can you guess why is this curved? Simple is the reason, as was the reason for the tortuosity of the blood vessels in and around or surrounding the dilatable or the movable viscera. So to provide for the stretching, so or rather to prevent for the stretch from the stretching. Similarly, this, if imagine this would have been just a straight nerve, the freedom of movement of eyeball would have been a bit restricted and it would have caused strain on the optic nerve. So that's why I remember that the optic nerve within the orbit has slightly an sigmoid course so as to provide for the freedom of movement of the eyeball. Okay. Then another thing is, you can see that this ophthalmic artery also enters this optic canal in the subarachnoid space. Now to exactly where it perforates this, the epineurial tissue to enter the optic nerve, it's simple and very easy. If you remember that the intraorbital course of the optic nerve was how much? It was how much? 25 millimeters, right? So if it is asked like where exactly the it's a branch. Now here I'm talking, no. Actually, let me tell you, it's ophthalmic, not ophthalmic artery. Ophthalmic artery, it passes along with optic nerve outside the dural sheath. It enters the orbit, but it's this central artery of retina, which is a branch of ophthalmic artery that runs within the subarachnoid space. And when it reaches the mid of the course of the optic nerve within the orbit, so if you divide it into two parts, like this much portion and this much portion, it becomes 12.5 millimeters, both the sides, 12.5 millimeters, right? So because 25 is the length, intraorbital length of the optic nerve. So central artery, remember, central artery of retina enters the substance of the optic nerve by perforating its epinural sheath, by perforating the pia attached to it at the mid of the optic nerve within the optic canal. That's around 12.5 centimeter from the its attachment to the posterior pole, to the optic disc, or 12.5 centimeter from the optic canal. Then when it enters the optic nerve, it runs in the center of the optic nerve, and I've shown you the diagram how it was entering into the optic orbit through this cribriform palate. So here it was this cribriform palate, right, through which it enters the eyeball. And don't forget, let me do a little change here, okay, leave it. So little change was that the length of the optic nerve, as I told you, was 40 plus 1 millimeter. That means total length is 40. Now so this much is extra bulbar. This is extra bulbar course, and this one is intraocular, you can say, or intraocular or intrabulbar course. So this is this 1 millimeter, this portion of the optic nerve which is running within the optic disc after crossing the cribriform palate is around 1 millimeter. So that makes the total length of optic nerve as 41 41 millimeter in length. Okay. Now when it enters at the optic disc, it divides into an upper and lower branches, and both the upper and lower branches further divide into temporal and nasal branches to supply the four quadrants of the retina, right? Apart from this, there are branches, other branches from the ophthalmic artery which perfuse the eyeball, and those are short ciliary, long ciliary branches as well. Okay, and remember they form when these long ciliary they meet here at the limbus, the junction of cornea and sclera. There also they form a circulus arteriosus major, and when these vessels they enter the iris at the margins of the pupil, they form circulus arteriosus minor. So there are two circulus arteriosus anteriorly at the margin of the iris, at the margin of pupil, or iris you can say is like limbus, at the limbus and at the margins of the pupil. So these are the two circulus arteriosus seen anteriorly, and there is one circular arteriosus. I already told you before, if you remember, that short posterior ciliary arteries also give branches here because it was compressing. Remember the diagram, because the optic disc was narrow. So the branches from these short posterior ciliary arteries, they form a circle here also, and this circle is called again circulus arteriosus of Zinn, circle of Zinn. Okay, so you remember that there is one circular anastomosis at the junction of optic nerve with the sclera or the cribriform lamina. There also you have a circle of arteriolus, circle of Zinn. Okay, so next you see is a different slide. Yep. So the blood supply of retina, as I was telling you, now when this central artery of retina, it crosses this optic disc, and it runs above the again think about the terminology. I said your terminology is as you are sitting in the center of the eyeball within the vitreous, and you looking posteriorly on the layers of the retina. So the layer which is closest to you is the inner limiting membrane, that is the layer number 10. And the central arteries of retina, they will branch to supply the retina, and these branches will run under the cover of internal limiting membrane. That means these branches of central artery will run over the fibers, that's called the layer of retinal nerve fibers, that is the axons of ganglionic cells, that is the 9th layer. So if they have this idea, that you can see that these are the arteries and veins of the retinal nerve fiber layers. So this is the on outside you are seeing here, this is the inner limiting membrane, and down below you find is the capillaries of the central artery of retina and central artery of central vein of retina. And so this is the nerve fiber layer. So this is the exact position where these vessels run. So they are not freely suspended on the inner surface of retina, rather they are covered by a thin transparent sheath of internal limiting membrane, and they are running in the retinal nerve fiber layer. From there they will give their arterioles and capillaries which will perfuse. Look here, this is important word, that they will perfuse the layers of the retina. Now very important thing is that these capillaries will perfuse up till, it will provide perfusion up till the, ये बहुत important point है, up till the inner nuclear layer. So the perfusion of the layers, because the 10 layers is like it's like much enough layers of neurons. So it has to be perfused from both the sides. So the retinal branches, they perfuse the retina from the inside up till the layer number in 4. This is the fourth layer. Look here, this was the first layer. First layer was the pigment cell layer, second was the rods and cones, third was this, that is the outer nuclear layer, and then fourth was this outer plexiform layer. So hold on, this one is the fifth layer, sixth is this one, inner plexiform, seventh is Golgi cell layer, eighth is hold on, we didn't count this actually, hold on. So let's mark it here so that you remember it. Yes. Okay, so this is the first layer, the pigment, this is the second layer, the rods and cones, and just forgot this one is the outer limiting membrane, right? So this one is the fourth layer, is the outer nuclear layer, then outer plexiform layer is the fifth layer, sixth one is this inner nuclear layer, seventh one is inner plexiform layer, eighth is the Golgi cell layer, ninth is the retinal nerve fiber layer, and 10th is the inner limiting membrane. So if it is asked like the retinal branches or the central artery branches of the retina, they perfuse how many layers? So they perfuse from inside, you can say just 50% is equal. That will be a better idea. 50% means the inner 5 layers, and either this way or the other way you can remember is that the central artery of retina perfuses up to the layer of internal nuclear layer or inner nuclear layer. That is the limit. Up till this branches, you can see they are perfusing up till the inner nuclear layer. Got it? Now the perfusion of the peripheral layers, that is the outer layers, this is the outer 5 layers. Like we'll talk about the perfusion of these outer 5 layers. So you know that choroid is a neurovascular, it's a vascular and pigmented layer, and vessels to choroid are being provided by the long and short ciliary vessels, which are branches from the direct branches from the ophthalmic artery or from the nasociliary branches of the ophthalmic artery. So these ciliary branches, they run in the choroid plexus, and from the choroid plexus they give their because of the Brooks membrane. Remember, I taught you in detail the 5 layers of the Brooks membrane. Brooks membrane was here, it was Brooks membrane here, right, onto which there was this pigment epithelium was resting over a basement membrane. So here the word use important is, you will use the word diffusion. Got it? And here the word was perfusion, the two important and different words. So it's this central artery of retina which perfuses the inner 5 layer, perfuses word yaad rakhna, okay? Then the outer 5 layers get their nourishment and oxygen by diffusion from the capillaries and the blood vessels in the choroid. So the blood vessels, they cannot enter here because of the Brooks membrane. So there will be no, when capillaries, blood plexus is here, it will be through diffusion, right? So there also, you've seen there is capillaries here, they have drawn it here, that the capillaries, and here they have not drawn capillaries, rather they have simply showed with arrows that it is through the diffusion that the outer 5 layers, they get oxygen and nourishment from the choroid plexuses of blood vessels. Okay, so that was important. I hope you've understood. Let's move to the next slide. And here they have shown is the retinal perfusion. How they exactly perfuse? You have all the layers from from the outer to the inner layer. You have by now learned all the layers, the 10 layers. Now look here, as I was telling that branches of the central artery of retina, they are traveling in the retinal nerve fiber layer, the layer number 9, right? So from there, these arterioles, they actually, they traverse these inner 5 layers, right? They actually form 2, capillary network. So that is important. So they actually form a superficial, look here, they forming a superficial capillary network in which layer? In the retinal nerve fiber layer number 9, and they dip further down and they form the deep capillary network in the layer number 5, because there were 5 layers which were perfused from the inside. So this is the inner nuclear layer, the last layer to be perfused by the central artery of retina, right? So when they, this is like the basics of anatomy. They will divide arterioles into capillary bed measure. Then from there will be venules which will suck up the venous blood and the waste products and will be carried back to the venule. So, and that they will be carried through the central vein of the retina, which will pass through the optic nerve into the central vein of the retina. So the important thing about this is the 2 layers in which there are 2 plexuses rotated. Remember, the superficial capillary network in the retinal nerve fiber layer, the deep capillary plexus in the inner nuclear layer, and there are only the 5 inner layers which are perfused by the central artery of retina. Okay. Let's see the next slide. Yes. So now after knowing so much, you should know how it actually appears when you are examining with the help of an ophthalmoscope on the subject. The examiner with his right eye is looking into the right eye of the subject, and the examiner should close his left eye or the opposite eye so as to view a clear image of the fundus of the eyeball. And that's why this ophthalmoscopy is also said to be fundoscopy by ophthalmologists. They call it as fundoscopy, so as to see the optic fundus, right? So this is the fundus of the eyeball which you see with the help of ophthalmoscope, also called fundoscopy. Now what you will see here, look here, you will find the, this is the point of central acuity. This one, this much is the macula, right? This much is the macula on the periphery. This much is the macula, and this is the fovea centralis, right? That means you are looking into the right eye of the subject as shown here. That no, this diagram is actually confusing. The optic disc, the optic disc lies on the nasal side, right? So the optic disc lies around, you can say around 2 to 3 millimeters nasal to the fovea centralis. So that means, can you guess that which eye is this? With the help of fundoscopy, with your seeing examiners, the subject sitting in front, this will be his left eye, okay, because this will be the nasal side. So this is the left eye, okay. Now this you are seeing is the optic disc, right? And from the optic disc, as I told you, the central artery of retina divides upper and lower twigs. Then the upper twig divides into a temporal branch and a nasal branch. Inferior twig divides into a temporal branch and a nasal branch, right? So those are the branches and how little perfused. So you can see that this area is a light yellowish color, right? So it is also called as macula lutea, this macula luteum. I'll tell you further, there are some clinical points regarding this. So anyway, so you have seen with the fundoscopy what you can see is, first of all, the macula, and what is this called, fovea centralis, you can see the optic disc. If there is swelling of this optic disc, that's called papilledema, and what that suggests of increased intracranial pressure. Okay, and you can even see the retinal detachment. One of the reasons for the retinal detachment, remember I told you that there was no anchorage, no joining or attachment with the pigment cell layer and the layer of rods and cones. Okay, so that was one reason that leads to retinal. And yes, so you can see the vessels directly with your eyes with the help of ophthalmoscope. Now tell me, what is that place in the body where you can see the neurons directly? Can you see a neuron directly? Of course, not directly with the naked eyes, because that site is not approachable, but the neurons are available for direct vision because they are exposed on the surface of the body, and the site is olfactory mucosa. Remember, olfactory nerve, I was already told you. So that is the peculiarity of olfactory nerve. There were like 7-8 points, important points regarding to olfactory nerves. Remember that. You can revise them from the lecture already uploaded. And so olfactory mucosa was the site where the neurons are present on the surface of the olfactory mucosa, and they are available for vision. You can, with the help of instruments, you can see, you can visualize them, or you can bring out the sample there from and here what I am telling is yes, with the help of ophthalmoscope, what you're seeing is two things. One you think is the blood vessels, and deep below all this is the retinal nerve fiber layers, which you may not be able to appreciate it, but what actually is, it's all covered by an internal limiting membrane, but below to that it's the retinal nerve fiber layer. All this is the axons of the ganglionic cell layer, and the direction of the axons was, again, which you should revise. This is the direction of axons, how they were moving out arcuately, and there was this horizontal meridian from where the upper half fibers and the lower half fibers, they were moving separately and converging towards the periphery of the optic nerve, from both nasal and the temporal sides. That was the pattern, horizontal meridian, everything I have taught you. Okay, so that was about the ophthalmoscopic examination. And now look here, this is what the diagram is the same. This here actually, can you think that this ophthalmoscopic examination, this is fundus of which eye, right eye or left eye? Just guess it. You are seeing here, this is the macula lutea and fovea centralis, and this this is the optic disc. So this is the fundus of right eye or left eye? So this will be the fundus of right eye. Okay, because optic disc is medial to the fovea centralis, around 2 to 3 millimeters. Okay, so now you are seeing is the blood vessels, that as I told you that there will be a superior nasal artery, inferior nasal artery, then you have this one as superior temporal artery, inferior temporal artery. That's how, like, the 4 twigs will divide and supply the 4 quadrants, and special a medial a lateral branch directly to the fovea, that will be macular artery. So these are the 5 branches given out from the central artery to supply the retina, and all of them are running in the retinal nerve fiber layer, covered on inside by the internal limiting membrane. Okay, and they perfuse the inner 5 layers of the retina up till the inner nuclear layer of retina. Okay,